Hey everyone, happy Lunar New Year. It is the year, of course, of the ox, which is very special to me. And it is said that people who are born on the year of the ox are usually, very loyal, very steady, very, like foundational, very much like an ox. It's strong, it works in the fields, it's very honest character. And so this year I thought, okay, for those of you who are staying at home, you want to make a couple of Lunar New Year, Chinese New Year dishes, that I would just pick a couple where the ingredients were really easy to find. You can easily get substitutions for it and just make a multi-course, Chinese New Year celebration meal at home. So first up, what we're going to be actually doing are these veggie spring rolls. So spring rolls are really, really easy to make. The reason that they are made during New Year is because spring rolls, well, one, it symbolizes spring. Spring is coming. And so you tend to use a lot of vegetables and stuff it that way. But two, the rolls of the spring rolls, especially after they're fried or we're going to be baking it this time, turn out to be nice and golden. So again, it symbolizes something nice, like something wealthy, something prosperous. So we're going to be starting off with that one. Actually put a little bit of salt over this, just a little bit, and that will not only help season, but that will help bring out the liquid. So I'm just gonna leave that for about 5 minutes and we're gonna come right back. We're gonna gather the rest of the flavoring ingredients and then the spring roll wrappers as well. Okay, so I'm just bringing together some of my typical seasonings. So I'm going to be lazy here. I'm going to use some ginger powder. I have some garlic powder. Again, you can use fresh garlic. Soy sauce. A dash of white pepper. So this is when you need to be your own chef. So depending on what you added, so it could be that you added mushrooms or different kinds of vegetables. Some people like to add the vermicelli noodles. So flavoring can be quite different. Going to add, this is up to you, just a little bit of sesame oil. And I think that just makes everything super fragrant. You don't have to add too much, but just that little bit. In the book, we did it in the oven. So I'll show you a couple of ways to do this. I'd say like typically the way that you do it is you put like one to 2 tablespoons of filling, whatever you wish. Okay, I'll do something like this. And then once you get to about halfway, I'd say, pull these sides in. So you're just doing it like a burrito. And then you finish rolling it up. You have something like this, okay? I don't think that you need to, you can put some water here if you want, but we're going to be either, you can pan fry it or you can bake it seam side down. So that's not going to be an issue here. Now, if you wanted to make kind of smaller, more bite-sized spring rolls, what I'm going to recommend is we can cut this in half first. I will put a little bit less. Just roll this up. And then around halfway, fold these in, and then finish rolling in. Okay. So you'll get something like this in comparison to this. So this is so much bigger. A little bit of oil, and you actually want to brush the tops and the bottom, but I'll stick these into the oven for about 15 minutes, and then afterwards I'm going to flip them and then leave them in for another between 10 to 15 minutes until they're kind of golden, and I want to make sure that the pastry is crispy. So the second recipe that we're going to be doing is one that I just made, and it is the cabbage and shiitake mushroom dumplings. Now, typically they are made, I think, usually with wheat dough, especially up north, but I thought that it would be really pretty for you guys to actually see through the filling. So we're trying a new recipe with the dough this time because I think some of you guys can't find the wheat starch that was mentioned in the vegan dim sum cookbook. Typically you make dumplings, especially up north, for the new year because the shape of the dumplings are kind of like Chinese golden or like silver ingots, and so that also symbolizes luck, that symbolizes prosperity for the new year. Cover it for a couple of minutes and then add in the rest of the liquid. Okay, so this is after a couple of minutes. A little bit of oil first. Quite necessary because this mixture has a tendency to just dry because of all of that starch. And then we'll add the rest of the water, but in the form of just cool room temperature water. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm thinking I have about 1 cup of mushrooms, so I'm going to do about 1 cup of this as well. What I'm going to do is to put together the marinade, so pretty easy. what I'm going to recommend for clear dumpling wrappers is they have a tendency they can be sticky. And they need a pretty kind of slick surface. So if you have something like, probably like a plastic surface or something that's not too rough, because it tends to catch onto that, okay? And then I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pleat one side. So the third recipe that I'm going to be making for you is the classic Chinese longevity noodles. It is eaten during New Year's, but it's also eaten as the last dish during really like any banquet that I've been to, be it like for weddings, be it for birthdays. And the idea behind that is usually the noodles that you can buy are in this form of like this giant yellow cake. And it is said that usually in production, this cake is actually one long continuous noodle. And that really symbolizes longevity, long life. And so that's why usually like even for birthdays and different celebrations, longevity noodles are made. If you don't have the noodles available to you, especially because if you're looking for a plant-based version, sometimes like people end up using egg noodles, but you can use like wheat noodles, you can use, you know, soba noodles, really whatever noodles that you like that you have available. It's super easy to make. I have some of these kind of like soy pieces that I'm just gonna rehydrate. Usually with longevity noodles, sometimes you'll see like a protein along with the mushrooms, just for about 15 minutes or so before I start working with them. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is to just cook my noodles. Traditional longevity noodles are in these big yellow cakes. There's actually no egg in them. They remind me of instant ramen because it's actually fried first, and then it has this like spongy texture. But if you can't find it, just, you know, find some wheat noodles or something that is on the thicker end of things. So we're gonna marinate the mushroom first, and I want it to be as savory as possible. And then I'm gonna grate a little bit of ginger in it. So this is really creating that southern, I think, Chinese flavor profile where you have the garlic and the ginger. And then cut them to about, I don't know, an inch and a half strips. So the last thing to do for kind of this longevity noodle stir fry is to make that sauce. About a 1/4 cup of water, some cornstarch, a little bit of soy sauce, like a pinch of white pepper, or as much as you like. And that combined with how we season the mushrooms is really going to flavor the noodles really well. Okay. Brought you guys outside. The first thing to do is I'm heating up my pan, medium to medium high heat. So the last recipe that I'm going to be making are sweet Chinese dumplings. I feel like we call everything dumplings, but essentially you can fill it with different fillings like sesame, or you can do it with red bean paste, and typically it's finished off with a ginger syrup on top, so it's nice and, you know, just slightly sweet. The reason that we eat these dumplings is because the name in Chinese, Tongyun, kind of, it symbolizes like, it sounds like family togetherness. Anytime you're eating something like round, that's nice because it symbolizes that, you know, the family is together. It's really delicious. I think that the texture will be different for some of you, but definitely very traditional, and that is how we are going to be finishing off New Year. Okay, so we're gonna start by making the dumpling wrapper on the outside first. So I have some glutinous rice flour. So you have to remember this is sweet rice flour, glutinous rice flour. You don't want to mistake that with just rice flour, which is a lot harder and a lot less sticky. It's a very basic dough. It will seem kind of crumbly, but you just want to get in there and squeeze it. A little different from kneading. Essentially what you want is something like this. It doesn't stick to your hands at all, but at the same time it has pretty like okay structure. Like I could fill that and then kind of close it on itself, and it's not, you know, it's not cracking. It's not too dry. And just let it sit while I go and finish up the filling. So just give that a cover. Okay, so the typical ingredients for the filling is usually your sesame seeds, sugar, and then you can put in some butter. So this can be cashew butter, tahini, it can be coconut oil. So you melt this first so that when you bite it, everything gets nice and gooey. I am going to lighten it a bit for myself. I'm going to take some date syrup, which is just whole dates and some water, and hopefully that kind of starts to give me a paste. Okay. So just something that holds together like that so that it's easier for you when you fill the dumplings. It is really just like any other dumpling dough, but the formation is very different because this is it's like a very gluten-free type wrapper. So I'll show you guys how to typically do it. So importantly is you want to fill this, but you also don't want to get that black sesame on the skin bit. Okay, so just have a cloth just so that you can wipe. A bit haphazard, but all you're looking to do is to just enclose the inside in any way. Okay, so this just looks like nothing. And then afterwards, carefully, because the filling can break through, I'm using kind of the bottom bit of my palm hand, and you just roll it until it is smooth. Okay, so pretty much something like that. And then this is a stage where you can just freeze it. So if you wanted to make a bunch of these ahead of time in preparation for New Year, that is what you would be doing. Anyways, I hope you all have a lovely Lunar New Year, a lovely Chinese New Year, and that you guys try some of these recipes. Please feel free to tag me. I would love to see what you're making for Lunar New Year this year. Wishing you guys all, happiness and health and good fortune and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I will be seeing you guys all again next time. Bye.